Don't be like this guy. A man pushing his shopping cart toward the exit at Costco paused beside the food court table where my family was eating. I saw him through my peripheral vision, but paid him no mind. Our Costco is always a sea of bodies and rolling carts. The more people surround me, the less I see any of them. My kids and I were joking, laughing, and scarfing, which had become our tradition after homeschool co-op on Fridays. "Kathy!" The man shouted at the top of his lungs. I jumped and glanced over at him, startled. It felt like he had shouted directly in my ear. My first thought was one of safety. This man was way too close to my kids if he were drugged up or drunk. But a spot check of his bearing relieved me of that worry. "Kathy!" My ears hurt. The violence in his tone set my teeth on edge. I followed the direction of his glare and saw maybe 100 people waiting to pay for groceries. There were dozens of Costco employees ringing up items. They all glanced at the man uncertainly and then immediately looked away. Everyone seemed unsure how to respond to this social violation. I searched for any female in the crowd that knew this guy. Kathy could have been any of them. But I saw no one making eye contact. Perhaps I should have looked for the woman cowering under the fury of this abusive screamer. "Kathy!" Was she his wife? What kind of man would speak to his spouse like that in front of 100 people? If he would do this in front of a crowd, what would he do in the privacy of their home? I felt fear for her. It sounded like chastising a stray dog for peeing on the carpet. My heart sank for Kathy, wherever she was. It turned out she was across the warehouse. "I need you to watch the cart!" The sound slapped my eardrums like the sudden backfire from an old truck. The man pointed sharply toward the food court. He shifted eagerly on his heels. Maybe Kathy didn't understand. Was she trying to mouth the words or sign across the warehouse that their son needed to pee? She didn't yell back to him. The man shouted, "Kathy, I can't leave the cart!" The son ran through the crowd, his face downturned, and stood by the cart. The man bolted toward the pizza counter. Had the man not eaten for a week? What could justify his rudeness? Did he not realize he could roll the cart into the food court area with him? He'd bothered 100 people, embarrassed his wife, hurt my ears, and demonstrated his true abusive nature to solve an imaginary problem. What a doofus! I felt embarrassed and ashamed for him. He had no clue what he had done. He was oblivious to the people around him, his young son, and his wife's feelings. It was a blatant violation of the real man code. He had perverted his power, becoming a tyrannical lunatic focused only on himself. And for what? A slice of pizza. This me before you version of masculinity disgusted me to the core. Whatever his thinking at the time, he resumed a bristly, if quieter, demeanor when he returned to the cart a minute later with a slice in his hand. He had it folded New York style and shoved it in his mouth. His wife and son stood beside the cart and listened in horror as he blamed his bad behavior on her. Somehow, she was the problem. She had made him do it. A little bell rang in my head. They have diagnoses for this sort of thing. Narcissists often engage in victim blaming in situations where they feel criticized or exposed, deflecting responsibility, gaslighting, playing the victim, shifting the blame, exaggerating others' faults. He had demonstrated the whole list a few feet from us in roaring technicolor. The wife, I was horrified to see, cowered under his gaze. Sometimes the universe provides the perfect example of selfishness, with all its masks dropped, where the naked, gory authenticity of it is laid bare. I turned to my kids as the guy told his wife to push the cart and followed them toward the exit. I waited a second, looking my kids in the eyes. I opened my mouth and fully embraced the teachable moment. The guy would still be within earshot, but that somehow seemed like justice. I said to my kids, whatever you do with your lives, don't be like that guy. Kathy! It is the job of parents to teach their kids the perils of serving themselves at the expense of others. To this day, I will shout, Kathy! randomly when I see someone behaving like a little tyrant. I hope they never forget what they saw. I hope I never do either. How easy would it be to become like him? We all have that level of selfishness brimming inside us. All it takes to become like that guy is a hyper-focus on me, 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 at the expense of you, and you.